Hey P2, do you want to hear some trivia?
Oh, mate, I love a good game of trivia.
Guess what happens when a chook and two pelicans get together?
What's that, mate?
A clucking good time. That's right, you pelicans. The wobbly chook has jumped on board, keeping the bird presence strong. Whether you like a pale ale, brown ale, IPA, or a lager, the wobbly chook has you catered. Crafted from Yamba's finest chooks.
Better still, Mick, how do we get some wobbly chook?
That's easy, P2. Jump online at www.wobblychookbrewingco.com or pop into 26 Cole Street in the heart of Yamba.
And have a clucking good time.
Cluck out.
Cuckoo! Always remember, don't be a mud gudgeon and drink responsibly.
Welcome back to another episode of the Two Pelicans podcast. So you would have just missed that.
G'day, you pelicans.
You knew he was. You were sort of hung up on his
Go and have a good time there a bit later on.
Pelicans landing in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to episode 24 of the Two Pelicans podcast. I'm Joey.
I'm Mick, and we are the Two Pelicans.
That's right, Mick, and we're here with a couple of very important jobs each and every week. And the main thing is, mate, we're here to get these legends, these weapons, and these fellow Pelicans through that maybe a bit of a tough old work week with a smile on the dial. And like we like to say each week, mate, while we're making fishing great once again.
100%, we're making fishing great again, and you legends keep supporting us. And look, we've just we're episode 24 now. So, look, before we get into too much business, we better crack a chook.
Now, something a little bit different here tonight. We are cracking a wobbly chook chocolate porter. Now, this is something very totally different for us. I'm just going to have a little sip here. Mick, you can talk us through what you just experienced.
Yeah, so it's actually a bit like chocolate, really, with a bit of beer.
That's actually not too bad at all.
It's like a espresso martini sort of.
It's not stouty like I thought.
Yeah.
Look, better still, if you're thinking of heading out for a nice day out, you might want to take your lovely wife or the kids out for a lovely lunch. Head down to the Wobbly Chook at Yamba, and you can try this stuff straight off the tap. And let me tell you, out of a schooner glass, nothing would taste better than that nice chocolatey flavour. But mate, before we get into tonight's episode, we've got a pretty cool episode in store tonight. We have a little bit of bookkeeping.
Let's do it.
Let's peel the Band-Aid off. Look, the Two Pelicans is going ahead in leaps and bounds. We're absolutely blown away with the growth of our channel so far, and everyone supported us. It's been fantastic. Throughout the week, I've made the decision and I've sort of got you jumped on board there, mate. That unfortunately, we are going to step back from Patreon.
Yep, we're going to step back from Patreon. May not be forever, but look, we're going to just step back from it from now. The juggling, the editing, putting it on two platforms.
Yeah.
There's a fair bit that goes on, and Joey's doing 99.9% of all that stuff, and he just hasn't got the time. This time of year, lure orders, Christmas, all the rest of it.
Your family, you're trying to do all this stuff.
It's just too hard, and like from my side of it, I don't know if I could actually take that up either, to be honest. So we're just going to drop that for now. We're obviously going to keep going on the Spotify and Patreon.
100%.
Not Patreon.
We're just going along, just going along like we were. And also, Mick, it's not just about the time. It's about I'm not happy with that product that we've been producing.
Mm-hmm.
It's too inconsistent. The camera through the week has finally packed it in. And we had some offers to borrow some cameras, etc., which was lovely of those gents.
Yep.
But for now, a heartfelt thank you to each and every person that has supported that Patreon so far. Like Mick said, this isn't the end of it. We may revisit this down the track again.
It might be on something else.
It could be on something else. We might tap into the YouTube space down the track. But for now, I want to put 100% effort and emphasis into our audio.
Yeah.
And the way we're doing that now, by the time we walk here tonight, it'll be live straight over on our channel.
That's right.
For us, it makes our job easier. And what that means for you, Weapons, is that means that we get to give you 100% each and every week, give you that little bit more into each episode because we're not worried about trying to get out of here and edit stuff. So, yet again, thank you very much for all them people that have been over there. But we're still going to honour the competition for the end of this month. I'll look into the back end of Patreon, work out how we can cancel your subscription so you're not going to keep charge. But we are still going to give a pack away. And because we've done this to you, Weapons, I think I'm going to give 2 away.
Going to give 2?
I'm going to give 2 away to support the people that are over there. And to be honest, if you've been with us from the beginning, you're probably only about 15 or $18 deep, something like that. To be honest, you probably got a good chance of coming away with the pack. So
What is it, about 12 over there at the moment?
12 or 14 over
Something
on
like that,
Patreon,
righto.
yeah.
Yep.
And yet again, like I mentioned, thank you very much to all of those people. But that's enough about that. I think we've been honest, very transparent there with why we're doing this moving forward. And if anything, we're losing a little bit of money out of doing this, but it's going to make our job a lot easier moving forward. So, mate, before we dive into today's episode, what's old Mick been up to?
Oh, look, it's been a busy week. We've on the weekend, on Friday night, Chops' 40th, went and had a couple of beers there, pretty low key, but a nice night, good catch up with a few people. And then on the Saturday, went to a surprise wedding down at Coffs. Yeah, Adam and Ellie, congratulations. Bit of a surprise, and we'll sort of lucky to be in on the surprise to a degree. At least went to the wedding part, and then we went to what was meant to be the engagement party, and So
how good's that? That's unreal.
Yeah. No, had a few beers and took the jigger. Everything worked, which was good.
AKA the camper,
the Palomino. But it was really good. It was a nice day too. The rain stayed away, and the camping was good. Not that we're probably out with all the wedding / engagement party stuff for most of it, but it was just nice to throw it on the back and just no kids around for a bit, which was good.
Unreal, mate.
How'd you go?
I had an absolute flat out weekend. I mowed my monstrosity of a lawn that was fucking looked like the Amazon jungle, the Amazonia plateau it looked like, after the rain we've had up here in northern New South Wales. It's just been absolutely ridiculous. If you live in this part of the world, I'm sure you can relate to that. It is just off its tap. But I had a gentleman come into the store today and I said, "How are you, mate?" And he goes, "Can you find that big fucking tap and turn it off?" So shout out to him. But no, look, I've just had a pretty good weekend, mate. I mowed the lawn, did a bit of stuff around the garden, which was great, and we're going to touch on it here in a bit, but got stuck into my biffing on Saturday afternoon, and mate come around, and we made pretty quick work of a box of stubbies. They disappeared by nightfall, and look, to be honest, I really needed that. It was good just to sit down and had a yarn with me mates, and the kids were there reenacting what they were watching on the TV, and woke up Sunday.
Just a lot of walking around and not throwing any punches. Is that
basically, what you mean? Nodding their heads a lot. But no, and then Sunday, I was very honoured to take the drive north to my best mate and his lovely wife's place to meet their 4-day-old baby.
Oh, nice.
Which was unreal. Went up there. Congratulations to Al and Kiara. Welcome little Albie into the world. So,
this is the Roy.
The Roys, Kelly Roys. So that's worth a round of applause. Healthy little Albie. His nickname's going to be Mac Tuna. Albacore. So no, it was really good to go and meet them. So I had a pretty wholesome weekend. Lots of time with the family.
It's funny. I was just thinking about Alex, and back in the day when he was running around doing a few comps, I think I had him down as Australian broom champion on my phone.
Yeah.
Because I think he won. Was it a teams event or something one year?
Yeah, with Tommy Slater at the Gold Coast. Yep, and won a big skeeter, Tiller steer skeeter.
That's right, a Tiller steer. That's right. Yeah.
And how funny, fast forward to this moment right now, and that gentleman does not have a conventional rod or reel in his house. He only has fly reels and rods.
He's just the fly man.
Yep. And
he's fly for a white guy.
I'll give you a shout out there, Big Al. If anyone wants a fly tied up for any species, get in touch with Al, because he is one weapon on the fly vise. He had a pretty good teacher. I'll give you that. He had a pretty good mentor growing up as a fly tyer, and I'll just leave it at that. But mate, why don't we get into a bit of news and biffing?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, I haven't finished, but you brought up a good point about this weather, and the Clarence is filling up a little bit, and I'm gonna take the bathtub out for its first run.
Unreal.
Yeah.
How good's that?
So I hope I don't hit any timber or anything that's floating down the river, but
you might stretch him a bit more, mate.
Might stretch it a bit more, stretch limo.
Be a stretch hands.
So, but anyhow, look, we better get on to the news, I suppose.
We'll get on to the news, mate. There's been some exciting things happening in the last little bit in the fishing world. We've had plenty on there. We'll probably just briefly touch on, but the main thing today is we're gonna dive into the world of biffing.
Yep.
But first things first, mate. Daiwa, the monster crank, has officially been released as of today. It's Tuesday. We're recording, so a couple of days prior to you guys hearing this. It's fully in tackle stores. head over to my YouTube channel, my YouTube video out. I mentioned it on last week's video. Podcast, I should say.
Yep.
Got stuck into the brim and the dewies on the little monster crank. So dive into your local tackle store.
Yeah.
If they don't have them, ask to get in your favourite colour in your monster crank.
And I just see that you've got them pretty well stocked up in the shop here too.
Yeah, Casino Outdoors, the stock is dwindling. I actually ordered another stock load today. So they're a great little crank. And look, while the river is a little bit high and dirty, the river actually here in town looks a lot like this beer we're drinking.
It looks like that down my way as well.
Yeah, but look, this is a great time, Get your tackle box out, prepare for the summer break, This could even be an episode to come, some maintenance, some things we need to get ready for the Christmas holidays, There's plenty of things that I overlook, but it's a great time to get into your tackle store and stock up on some lures.
Well, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing here. I'd say in the next couple of weeks is that I'm going to need some line because I reckon the line on my reels are quite a few years old. And it's just time to do a general stock up and a bit of a clean up. So
why not, mate?
Yeah.
And then, like I said, it's the shitty weather. Perfect time to get in and get it done.
Yep.
Let's move our attention north, mate. Far out Brussels sprouts. If you're a tournament angler of any description, you would have had your eyes glued to the ABT website or their social media outlets over the last week and a half. The Barra Tour, we briefly touched on it last week. Round 1 was won by Jacob Wheeler and our own Timmy Morgan. Round 2, they went back-to-back. That night that we were recording, they went back-to-back and did it again. Moved forward, and then we had Carl and Gussie.
Yeah.
More Americans, although Carl's Aussie. He's been over there for a long time now, so they take out the next round.
Yep.
And then our very own Tommy Wood with Josh from Samaki take out the final round, which was actually 2 rounds combined.
Now, isn't that scary? Because we all know that the guys that fish in America can use the live scope and all that. But I remember just going back to Mitch's episode, or when we had Mitchie on there a couple of episodes ago, saying that Tommy had that live scope dialed in.
Yeah.
So, but all them guys that big, whether it's little exposure in America, big exposure, they've obviously brought that into this Barra tournaments or the series, so to speak, and they've all sort of come up trumps. But I just big shout out to, I think it was Team Zerich, Liam Robinson and Elliot Wu that were anglers of the year, so they were obviously consistent over a lot of it. Just didn't get the chocolates at one of the events.
Which is pretty crazy to think how consistent they were, given that Tim and that one three,
three.
If you take into account the other ones. But I'm not sure if they count because he had a different partner. But pretty unreal consistency there. Yeah, shout out to those legends, mate.
No, that's good. Anyhow, I think that's. You want to talk about this fight?
Let's talk about some biffing. Hang on, let's get some biffing music up. Boom, boom, boom. I'm gonna knock your block off my cousin. So, as we all know, if you don't know what occurred on the weekend, the Tyson Jake Paul fight was probably the most talked about boxing event ever in history. I would say it was probably the most televised. I don't know what the streaming were on it, but it was out of control. Now, I'm going to talk about it first. Because it doesn't deserve that fight. It doesn't deserve the highlight of what I'm going to give another fight here in a minute. So I think if you watched it, you understand, obviously, there was money took over from Pride, unfortunately.
Yeah, look, I only watched that fight. It was sort of in between the wedding proceedings, so just a bit after it. But, so we just we sat there, uploaded it on a phone, or not uploaded, but watched it on a phone, and, there was probably 16 minutes of my life I'll never get back, or 20 minutes. It was pretty ordinary.
I think there was glimpses of when Tyson forgot that he wasn't following the script and he let a little jab fly.
Yeah.
There's rumours. There's rumours there that he couldn't knock him out because it would have voided his contract, etc., etc., etc. Look, whatever happened at the end of the day,
I don't think Jake Paul even tried either.
He didn't.
Frank.
It was a garbage fight. It wasn't a fight.
It was rubbish.
Rubbish. Yeah, and look, I'm not going to sit here and say I know a heap about fighting, but one thing I know if there was no money involved, that was over in round 1, and Mike Tyson was victorious. That's my feels on that. But that's enough about that.
Yep.
Let's rewind a little bit. The main card was that was obviously the main card event. Yep. The second main card event was the female boxing round before that.
Okay.
So it led us into the main event.
Yep.
And it was Taylor versus Serrano. Now, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but this is off the top of my head, but Taylor, I think, is either middleweight or heavyweight champion, defending her title.
Yep.
And Serrano is featherweight. So she stepped up.
Oh, okay.
She's come up. She's featherweight champion. She's come up to try and take the belt.
Yep.
Now, let me tell you, these two women absolutely bashed the living piss out of each other every single round. Now, I backed Serrano from the get-go, bit of an underdog, so to speak, but when she walked out down that runway, you could see the dog in her eye. She was ready to go.
Ready to go, righto.
Now, it was pretty apparent straight away that every round, the minute that bell dinged, Serrano was on that front foot, and she had old love in the corner bashing the piss out of her.
Yep.
Now, about round 4, Serrano's eyes split open, and it was a nasty gash. Like, you could put your pinky finger in it. It was that big. Anyway, she battled on, and it was quite evident to everyone that Serrano had absolutely smashed this fight.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, yet again, money, obviously, whatever happens comes into it. The prelim scores come in from the judges, from the commentators, which aren't gospel, but it gives you a bit of an idea. And I think Serrano was about 8 or 9 points in front. Quite clear. Okay. It was clear to everyone that she was going to be the winner.
Yep.
And only to see Taylor's hand raised, and the crowd went absolutely Burko. Boo!
So they got it wrong, or did they fix it, or no?
They just awarded. I just very disappointing for Serrano, because it was one. Like I said, I'm not big into me biffing, but if that was the first fight you'd ever watched in your life, you'd be absolutely entertained.
Yeah, okay, righto.
And it was a really big lifter, coming into that main card event thinking it was going to be an absolutely thrashing thing. It had you pumped up, and then to be let down, unfortunately. But shout out to Serrano. And a shout out to her coach. So they give him a bit of mic time there at the end.
Oh, okay.
And the coach has grabbed the mic, and he has just let rip and told the judges what he thought of him. And he was absolutely true. Like, Serrano had this big gash on her head, and the Taylor kept coming in headbutting, trying to open up the wound. And there was no pulled up about it.
Yeah.
Maybe once he tapped her on the shoulder and said no more. But unfortunately, that's professional sports at the highest level. But I just wanted to give a special mention to her, because I think to fight basically with one eye, with all that shit, Vaso or whatever they put on it, and she is just still belt the living piss out of old love. Shout out to her. That was a really exciting fight, and I'm sure our listeners here that watched it, they would 100% agree with me that she deserved that win. But mate, that's enough biffing. Should we move on to this week's topic? Do you think, there, mate?
Yeah, I think so. I think we might just move on.
Why not? Before we do, let's hear a friendly little ad from our friends over at Daiwa.
I know.
Mate, I can only recommend one thing. I would head over to the Daiwa Australia website, mate, and make yourself a little bit of a wish list, and then head into your local tackle store and see if those legends can get it in. Because if there's one thing I know, mate, Daiwa Australia, they have it all. Whether you want a brand new rod, a nice new shiny reel, or some new line to go on it, then you're going to need some tackle, of course. They have it all. Daiwa Australia is your one-stop shop, and the big supporters here, Two Pelicans Podcast. And that's right, you weapons. If you are looking for some fishing tackle, go and check them out down at your local tackle stockers. But Mick, we have a bit of a cool episode in store tonight. You're going to be asking probably a bit of the questions here, but I dangled the carrot last week chatting about Brazil, and I said, who wanted to hear about fishing abroad? And absolutely no one said they wanted to hear about this, but I'm going to fucking... No. We're going to dish it out anyway.
Look, we're going to be honest. Like, when we said we've been busy, we have been fucking busy. But look, I thought it was a good thing to bring up now, and just sort of paint the platform for when you're going through these processes, and as time goes by, when you hit a few milestones on creating your trip and different things, and you just bring it up on the show. But I think more importantly, what we want to do is sort of establish, where do we go, what do we do when we're looking at these sorts of things, and I think the first thing is like, you've done a few places now, but originally, tell us about your first overseas trip, or fishing one at least, and what were some of the things that you learnt from that first trip?
So the first ever trip that I did fishing trip overseas was actually Vanuatu. It was actually our honeymoon, but it was a fish. Like, you're not going to go there.
Good on your pro.
Yeah. You're not going to go all that way and not fish. It's as simple as that, actually a little bit of a funny story here. So mentioned here in the shop to a couple of reps that we're heading over there. And a shout out to Michael from D-Light. He does a solar D-Light company.
Oh, yeah.
And he actually had a very dear friend that had an eco lodge and a fishing guiding service.
Oh, okay, yep.
So anyway, one thing led to another, and we reached out, and he's like, like when you're over here, send me a text. And there was nothing sort of set in gold, like no days. And I was like, I don't know, like I don't know what's going to happen. But man, sort of looked at some of the other charters around, and absolutely nothing against Ocean Blue and those guys. Like if you want to go and catch seriously big fish, Ocean Blue charters are for you. But the way everything lined up, I didn't really have the money for that at the time, and went, no, this will be sweet. Now,
because it's your honeymoon.
It's your honeymoon. Yeah, it's not actually a fishing trip. But as it worked out, it was actually literally 50 meters along the beach from Ocean Blue Charters. Gideon, there was a gentleman that I went with. He knows all the Ocean Blue guys.
Yeah, right.
So his little lodge is just down the beach. There's a little difference in the boat, probably about $250,000 difference in the boat. But anyway, so yeah, literally landed in Vanuatu, and we didn't really have anything planned. We're just there to relax, and man, true to his word, I rang him the night we landed, and he's like, yes, weather bad tomorrow. I come pick you up next day from hotel.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, yeah, sweet. So literally the day after, old mate rolls around at like 5 o'clock in the morning in his little van and picked the both of us up.
And I'd just like to just ask you, did you take any fishing gear with you on this trip?
Yeah. So every time I've ever been, like we'll dive into this throughout the episode, but I've always taken my own gear, and that's because I'm rough as friggin' guts.
Yeah.
And I like my own gear.
Yep.
So that's a really good point. You've brought that up. I'm going to probably, I'll fill out the story.
Keep
but
going where you're going.
We're going to come back to that.
I was just curious, this first time that you went, considering it was your honeymoon, did you take fishing gear?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're definitely going to come back to that, because transportation of
There's
fishing
some women out there that are probably frowning on you on that now.
But no, look, it is. There's a couple of little tips there that will make or break your trip as far as carding your fishing gear. That's definitely something we're going to circle back to. So anyway, Gideon picks us up, takes us out to the lodge, and my wife was pleasantly surprised when we arrived at this eco lodge to chocolate croissants for breakfast.
Well, that's a good way to entice the ladies in to a day's fishing.
So then we greeted to our boat, and she's got like a 52-stroke Merc on the back. She's just one of the old banana longboats. And the fuel can, the fuel drum's like a 20-litre drum with a plastic bag under the lid. Like, she's pretty rough. Anyway, we head out in this, and Prue gets pretty seasick. She gets pretty crook, and anyway, we head out through the heads, and we start trolling, and I didn't want to troll, like I took all stick baiting rods, and I wanted to cast for GTs and stuff. Anyway, we start trolling down the coast. We've probably been going half an hour, and she was going really good. She's like, no, this is okay. Sitting up with like her back sort of against the front of the boat, looking backwards with the rod set out.
Yeah.
Anyway, this big cuda just grabbed on, and it is screaming. Anyway, I'm like, do you want to wind it in? She's like, no, you do it. And I reeled in this huge barracuda. Much to old mate's dismay, our guide, Cubby was his name. Like, I've handled fish my whole life.
Yeah.
And I've just grabbed this thing clean out of the water under the gills, and poor old Cubby was about to pass out from heart failure. You're thinking I was going to have my fingers that jumped off. He soon realised it wasn't my first rodeo with handling fish. But anyway, I don't think my wife knew what she was in for with what was to follow, that the fish just lay in the bottom of the boat.
Yeah.
Like, that's where they sit for 6 hours in the March sun.
Yep.
And
true to cured over there.
Yep. And true to form, I don't know if any one of our listeners have ever caught a barracuda, but they stink. They are rank. And next thing you know, the burly producer was happening, and there was. But anyway, we'll skip forward a little bit. So we've trolled for a bit longer and caught a bit of shit. And I said, look, man, I really want a stick bait. And he's like, yeah, that's cool. And I think being honest with your guide, like obviously Cubby and Gideon, that operation, they're not the most professional guys, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They were willing to listen. If you weren't a fuckwit and told them, I want to do this, I want to do that, they were happy to listen. And although he was a little nervous to get the boat into where I wanted to get in the boat, we got the boat in there. Anyway, picks up the popping rod, man, and first cast. This will tie back in with storage of rods and traveling. First cast, my rod explodes.
Yeah, right.
Into like a gazillion pieces. And I was like, oh. Yeah, like
literally just went.
Yeah, like literally just self-combusted in the air. And I'm not going to mention brands. This is a long time. We're not going to go into brands, but it was a certain brand, and I had 2 popping rods in the same tube, identical.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, fished throughout the day and caught some like rosy jobfish and some little tea leaf dorali, and they're just bits and pieces, later in the afternoon, probably about an hour of fishing. And it was a great day. Don't get me wrong. I had a ball, catching a heap of like little, I don't know, everything snapper. If it's red, it's a snapper, but it's not.
Yeah.
And about an hour to go, we come to this beautiful ledge, and I sunk this stick bait down, and I hooked this thing, and it was a big G, and it runs straight out of the boat, and it just went down. Now, when I applied pressure on the rod, that rod now, too, which is my lovely wife's rod, it now too explodes into like a gazillion pieces.
Oh.
So I'm like, okay, righto, we've narrowed what happened down there, which we'll circle back to here in a minute, but. I'll tell you what, finished off the day. It was a great day. And I said to Prue, I said, I want to come back for another charter. Like, I want to come back again and get a bit more serious. But now I've got no rods. So on the way back to town, I said to Gideon, I said, hey, mate, is there a tackle store in this place?
Yeah.
Mate, you should have seen that guy in the tackle store. He's never had a bigger smile on his face. I walked in there. I said, mate, what popping rods you got? And this. And I walked out there for like $1,500 worth of stuff. And he had the biggest smile on his face. It stimulated his economy. But look, at the end of the day, what's happened at the beginning of the trip is, so we've boarded at Brisbane. I've got my rods in my tubes, etc. I've got like a little padlock on the end, no one can get in there. And no, this is no mayonnaise on this yarn. So as true as I sit here, we're out watching the plane. And at this point, this is probably one of my, this might have been my second time overseas. Not the Vanuatu's that far, but I'd never really done much traveling at that point. Like, I'm talking, this is like 8 odd years ago.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there watching the plane, and here comes the baggage trolley out. And I went, oh, look, there's all our bags. I can see them. And here's my rod tube sitting on the bag. Anyway, they start unloading the bags, and my rod tube hit the deck and rolled in. And hit like the airplane wheel, like sitting under the airplane.
Oh, right.
So I'm starting to panic because I'm looking going, they don't know that's there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm like, do I bang on the glass? Like, do I get someone's attention? Anyway, they finished and he pulled
Chuck a brown eye.
Literally. And he's pulled the buggy away and then he spots it and he goes and gets it. And old buddy's up in the plane and he just threw it.
Yeah.
Like chucked it. And I was like, well, that's what's probably happened to me, right? A little bit of a compound fracture and whatever have you. So before we get into the rest of this, my advice to you is rods into rod bags individually. Either get a washer, wrap them around so they don't rattle inside that tube. And top and bottom of your tube, you definitely need to glue a sponge in.
Good foam.
The tube only can be 20 or 30 mils longer than your rod, so cut it to the exact length. I had both the same rod, so I could cut it to the exact length, but you need glue foam in the top of the tube and foam in the bottom, and that way if anything does happen, they no movement is key. That is 100% a key to traveling.
That's right. And look, I don't know, I think we might have spoke about my little experience with making rod tubes and all that when we got pulled up, just in case we're making bombs. But we learned that pretty early on in the piece, where we actually used a rod tube just for like cruising around here, like just on a mission. You see them on the car there. We did that, and broke one. So, but after that, like I said, we've gone up to North Queensland and that, and pretty much, my mother made me some heavy duty sort of like rod socks. Anyhow, so we put them in that way, and then we probably had about 50 mil of like pretty thick sponge foam on each end of it, and just a little bit of twine just to wrap them in and around so they're firm.
That's 100% the key, mate. You just know rattle on those rods 100%. So so we'll skip through Vanuatu. So I'd plan on going back. Now this is actually a bit of a yarn. I said we'll go and go off tangents on this. So I booked in another day, and he said, yes, you can't come that day. We have local fishing tournament that day. I was like, yeah, that's all good, bud. Whatever. I'll go the next day. So he meant to pick me up at 4 o'clock. 4:30 rolls past. 5 o'clock rolls past. 5:30 rolls past. No Gideon. Fuck is he? He tried to ring him. He's like, oh, yes, sorry, Mr. Joseph. I'm on my way. I was like, yeah, righto. He fucking rolls in. He comes in hot, and he is hungover. The boys have turned one on. They've had a big day at sea, and they've turned one on. Anyway, he fills up all the water drums, and that's all they are, a 20-litre water drum. That's what they cut their filling, because there's no rules over there. Anything goes. So we head back over, and he goes, Cubby told me you best fisherman he ever had on his boat. I was like, well, fuck me. He must have had many fishermen on his boat before. Anyway, he said, I told Cubby you have all-day charter today. You pay half day, you have all day. I was like, oh, mate, that's unbelievable. And he said, you tell him where you want to go. He does whatever you want. I was like, this is unreal. Because I'd caught a heap of fish for their village, so they loved it.
Well, that's right. So predominantly, like when these guys go out and get things like barracuda or whatever, they don't care.
No.
And they're happy for it to sit in the thing all day. They take it back. They wrap it up in leaves and smoke
and everyone's
it and do all
loving
that stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely stoked.
Yeah.
So we get in the boat, and yet again, no mayo on this yarn. We start heading out, and he's like, where do you want to go? I was like, see that island out in the horizon? He's like, Hat Island. I was like, yeah. Can we go out there? Now, may I add, there's no sounder. We have no GPS. Nada. No electric motors. No electric start motor. It's just a pull start 50.
Yep.
So we go out, we're heading out, and there's Hat Island, and there goes Hat Island, and there's Hat Island in the distance now, and now I can't see Hat Island. We're that far past Hat Island, and now I can't see anything, and we're in the middle of the ocean. I was like, is he coming out here to knock me off? And he goes, secret spot. And, mate, credit to him, he found a fad in the middle of the ocean. He's obviously been there 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So anyway, we stick baited around there, caught some yellowfin, which was pretty cool.
Yep.
And I said, let's go back in, catch like trout and red bass and shit like that. He's like, yeah, sweet. So we start heading back in. It was pretty wild. She was pretty rough. So we start trolling. He's got some big tremblers out, trolling for a wahoo. And no lie, I'll hook up to the biggest marlin of my life. And, we were never going to land on that tackle. He was probably a good 400 plus pound. And I hung on to him for a couple of minutes. I went, this isn't going to end well. And no, it didn't. But shout out to Vanuatu. If anyone ever is heading over there, just check out, I think it's just Gideon's Eco Lodge. If you're looking for doing it on a budget, 100% recommend it. The food, the chef is second to none. We ate local beef patties for lunch on the house and on burgers, and it was unbelievable, mate. And look, while you're not getting the resort like just down the road at the Ocean Blue, and you don't have the big fancy boat and all the technology, if you are there, say on a honeymoon or something like what I was, 100% recommend it, and it is kid and wife friendly as well. So,
okay.
So nice. That's probably enough about Vanuatu.
Yeah, righto. So I guess one thing that come to mind about just general travel is the ones that you've done since then. Have you organised it all by yourself, or has there been assistance from travel companies? How have you gone about that?
I've never been to a travel company.
Yep.
Everything's been sort of off my back organised. With Japan, I've been to Japan a stack of times now. Fish nearly every time I've been, but I will say there's credit to be given for some of my close friends there have organised.
Yeah.
The only thing that they haven't organised for me was this last trip this year. When we headed over, and I actually organised sea bass fishing by myself.
Okay.
Reached out to a guy, did a bit of research. Seen he was like an ex-Megabass dude.
Okay.
Had a pretty reputable name and went with him. And, mate, I had an absolutely fantastic day. Tokyo Bay Fishing Charters was the name.
Okay.
Huge, big boat. I think they takes up to like 6 guests.
Okay, right.
And you book the boat. So you pay for the boat. And if you all fit in there, well, it cuts the cost. So I booked the boat for myself. Hence, it was a bit more expensive.
Yep.
But yeah, absolutely fantastic time. So yeah, no, I've always just booked everything myself. This sounds a little bit crazy, but when we were in the North Pole 2 years ago for Christmas, I actually organised a ice fishing adventure, and that was off our own bat as well. Just do your research. I'm not a fan of travel agencies for anything. Like, we've done a fair bit of travelling around the world now. We've always just booked it off our own back. I think you have that little bit of security knowing that you did it and you know you've done it right, and you're not going to have that worry of getting there and they don't know who you are.
Yeah.
You've got it all. You've got all the printing. There's no third party involved. The only thing probably you would do with third parties, if anyone's thinking to going to maybe like PNG or even with this Brazil trip, I've sort of got another person involved from Manus in Brazil. Sort of a mutual friend, and he sort of helped out a little bit with recommending stuff. So maybe with those places that maybe aren't the run of the mill and aren't just super safe places to go, maybe just reach out and get a second opinion.
Yeah, righto. Okay, no, that's good to know. The other thing that I'm curious to know, and look, it sort of scratches on maybe if you're taking fishing gear, but just in general, travel insurance.
Yeah. Nothing really changes with the travel insurance. Normally, travel insurance is only affected by health conditions or if you're skiing.
Okay.
So fishing doesn't actually. I've never we've done it. I don't know how many.
Let's
times.
just say let's say you take $5,000 worth of fishing gear and it gets lost. Too bad. So sad.
No. That's all.
Okay.
That's all. There's
all part
different
of it?
policies. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
okay.
anything. It's like your local. It's like your house and contents. You can take out all different policies. Theft policies, loss policies. A lot of that's covered through your airline too. You know, if they lost your bags and etc. That comes back on them. But I'm not going to go into it. But there's been a well, maybe we might mention this in the episodes to come when I find out a little bit more about it. But unfortunately, at the moment, there's been a gentleman over in PNG, an Aussie, and he had an accident while on a charter, and now is stuck there and out for nearly hundreds of thousands of dollars, and can't get him home because of no travel insurance.
Yeah.
So, at the time, you might think you're saving a few $100, but hands down, get your travel insurance. It is going to save it in the long run. Mine's a little bit of a drama because my pre-existing health conditions with heart, but I can still get it.
Yeah,
so 100%. Just spend that little bit of effort and get that travel insurance. You think you might not need it.
So if you're an athlete like myself, you'll have no problems whatsoever.
No, 100%. Take one look at the picture on your passport, and they'll just pass you in, mate. But yeah, what else you got for me?
No, look, I think you sort of touched on there around safety in these places, and like previously when we've listened to, I guess, like yourself and Tommy talk about areas of America, you're going to go into South America. You've been over to Vanuatu and
New Zealand, backcountry, yeah.
Like, how does one be safe? You know, like, is there things to consider? I mean, it's sort of funny with some of the stories that Tommy was sort of saying, like it just felt like he just wasn't aware of the situation that he got himself into. But, you know, just in general, like, does it all come down to planning, or is there other things that you can do along the way?
There's two types of safety. Obviously, safety as in physical safety from people, entering in dangerous areas, etc. Like you mentioned there, like some not so good places in America. Obviously, Brazil can be quite dangerous if you do go off that beaten track. So you got that type of safety, and then you also have your physical and well-being. So, for instance, we hiked into the backcountry New Zealand. You know, like we had like a little sat phone thing with us for safety. I actually bung my ankle up one of the creeks. I was lucky to get out, and it was sort of 2-3 days to go on the trip, so I could manage. But yeah, there's that two kinds of safety, and it just comes down to, like you said, research.
Yeah.
Know your area. Like this Brazil trip isn't too bad, you know, like we're going with a reputable guide. That's probably going to be okay. There's only like a little bit of to and froing. But we're going to actually, I'll probably touch on this later on.
Yeah, sure.
This is actually a really good point you have brought up, though. It's planning, you know. So getting in Brazil may seem daunting, and coming from North America probably is a little bit daunting.
Yeah.
To get into the city of Manaus, you have to fly from North America, and you have to fly from Panama City.
Okay. Yep.
Now, Panama City is one of the biggest drug ring lord places. That's where all the Mexicans
You'll get cocaine cassid.
Yeah, it's where all the Mexicans hide their money. So I did a bit of research. Flying from there into Brazil is probably not the best thing. You're probably going to get pumped, especially two gringos coming down with fishing gear. Probably not a good look.
Yeah.
So we're going to enter via South America. So we're going to fly direct from Australia into Chile.
Yep.
Chile. Then we're going to fly Chile up to Brazil, and then Brazil, well, stay in Brazil, but fly to Manaus. So we're coming from South America into South America, essentially. We're not coming from the north. So I think that's just research, you know, just being aware. A couple of people just sort of mentioned things about Panama City, and when I did my research, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's just dramas we don't need. So, little things like that. Now, as far as personal safety, obviously, doing those trips we did into New Zealand, you don't have to worry about snakes, etc., like that.
Yeah.
Mate, like we were in some pretty rugged terrain. If you do, like, if I had broken my leg up there, that's a big thing on the boys to get out of there.
100%.
Lucky helicopters over there are like having a tractor here in Australia. Every farmer's got a helicopter, so look, you're pretty safe and things like that, mate. They just call it the chopper. Cost you a couple of grand, but they come and pick you up, you know. But No, you're right. Safety is a big thing. If anyone there, a gentleman, probably one of our listeners, DK, Dan Kelly, he's just been over to Japan.
Okay.
With his partner, and he reached out before they went, and I put him in contact with a good mate of mine, the guide over there. And for anyone wanting to sort of dabble in a bit of fishing, but go on a holiday, and this probably isn't just fishing related, but you are maybe you're a little bit reserved. You're not sort of going to jump out of your skin too much. You're a little bit worried about what you can do, where you can do it. Hands down, Japan is the country for you. Okay. It's the safest country. I can't think of another country where I can walk around at midnight to a bar and go to a tackle store by myself and go back to the hotel.
Yeah. How good's that? A tackle store at midnight?
Yeah. They stay open. Most of them stay open till 10:30, and then the time you get back to your hotel from wherever you were. But
okay.
No, hands down, Japan for anyone wanting to travel and just dabble. Dabble in a bit of sightseeing, a bit of fishing. Hands down, Japan is the place for you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And look, I've spoken to a few people over the last couple of years, and they definitely have, said that Japan's great, not just for fishing, but for other things. So, that's pretty good. But and you sort of brought up I think a pretty important point is like, when you have the opportunity to go overseas or whatever, you're looking, whether it's your honeymoon or taking the family to the North Pole, you're sort of looking for a sneaky little fishing sesh here and there, aren't you?
Yeah, and I actually just spoke about this with my wife at dinner. I was like, "What can I talk about?" And she's like, "But everywhere we go, it's the first thing." And I'm not being rude or pig-headed when I say that, but we've got a trip planned next year, not Brazil, another trip. And the first thing we've tripped, she goes, "What fish can you catch there?"
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, you're spending all that money.
She's been with you long enough now, I suppose, she knows what's coming.
She gets a download. She got the memo. But she got the memo at the altar. Fishing comes first. No, look, I think you're going to spend all that money on flights and you're passionate about fishing like I am. I just want to tick fish off my list. Not many people can say they've drilled a foot-hole in the ice in the Arctic Circle at the North Pole and caught salmon through the ice.
Yeah. Did you find Santa, though?
Oh, yeah, we saw Santa. We stayed with Santa at Santa's house. So, and yet again, like you mentioned, that was the main thing of that trip, but we're not going to go all that way. I actually had planned to go pike fishing in Paris that same trip on the way home, but unfortunately I was very unwell.
Bit of barley belly.
Had the wheezer, and we just needed to get home ASAP. Yeah, it wasn't looking good there for a little hot minute, but that's okay. But no, look, you just make the most of it, like, for instance, the USA, like, I don't know when I'm going to get back to North America. We were there for Carl, like, we weren't not going to fish. I think we fished nearly every day, we'd walk down to the river. I think the first day that we were there, we all took fishing gear. Tommy had rods, so we didn't worry about rods. We just took reels. And we grabbed some rods, we grabbed some tackle from a Bass Pro. It was our first morning there, and we went down to the river, and Timmy Oakley got some striped bass, and just right off the pontoon where they started the tournament from. So
how good's that?
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter where you go. There's a fish, and you can catch it. So
yeah, right, right, mate. Well, I don't know.
I've got a couple more little things here. Just some maybe little funny things that
just things to point out.
Things to point out, like about maybe some of the do's and don'ts. So one of the biggest questions I get asked is, can I take lures in my carry-on luggage and reels?
Yeah, okay.
It's hands down the biggest question. And the simple answer is absolutely not. The 1 out of 100 time that old Bun jabs on, he might let you through. But for the best part, you will not get through security with fishing line on your reels, and they will make you strip it all off, and they will throw it in the bin.
Okay. So just for the uneducated traveller like myself, why the fishing line?
It's a choke hazard. You could strangle someone with it.
Okay, cool.
It's no different to like a shoelace and that, but you've got about 500 metres of it on your fishing reel. So.
Yeah, I'm a MacGyver. I can just use my shoelace and
So that's
a go. You're quick.
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Now hooks, you can stab people. Like it's a sharp, So I've had people say, "Oh, but I don't want them to get lost." It's like, unfortunately, you don't have a choice. Just pack them in your suitcase. Now, when you are packing stuff in your suitcase, I briefly mentioned this to you this afternoon. It doesn't matter how good you think your suitcase is. Probably 6 years ago, I splashed out and spent about $400 on a suitcase. Got the top of the range, the hard shell. It is a crack of nothing. theoretically should get damaged inside.
Mm.
On this last trip to Japan, I normally take a really big tackle box so I can bring home heaps of lures in my box. And I had my big heavy-duty diver, the new diver D-boxes.
Yep.
And the big deep one of them, and it was wrapped in the middle of my suitcase with reels. I always wrap reels in clothes. You always wrap them in socks or something and put them in the middle of your suitcase.
Yep.
And when I got there, my tackle box was shattered. So that just goes to show how much of an absolute beating they get.
Yeah.
Like a D box, for those people that know exactly the tackle box I'm talking about, they're a pretty rigid tackle box.
Yeah, 100%.
So just look after your gear. This is probably off topic a little bit, but if you are going to travel with your camera equipment, do what I do, and you can't take batteries in checked on luggage.
Yeah.
They all must be in your carried on luggage.
That's it.
A lot of people will just take the batteries out and put their cameras, their skins in their suitcases. Absolutely don't do it. If you get a dodgy security dude and he sees that, there's just that want to open your bag. I always take everything in my backpack, and I've done that to every one of these trips, whether it was Japan, Vanuatu, the North Pole, US, New Zealand, wherever I've been. And I'm talking not just a camera. Like when I went to New Zealand, I had drones, drone batteries, 3 GoPros, my big camera, tripods, microphones, and everything was in that bag, your laptop. Just carry it with you. It is so much safer, and you know that that's not going to get thrown around.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that stuff is expensive.
It is expensive, and some of it can't be replaced. So, but mate, I've got so much I could talk about there. You know, some highlights. Obviously, I think I've mentioned in an early episode, like hiking that backcountry in New Zealand was second to none. Now, I just did think of a good point, and this might probably nearly finish us up because we're going going for a little while here. But I could talk about this for hours. And let me know if you have any questions. Please drop us a line, and I'd love to answer them live on the next podcast. Please send in any of your questions to the Two Pelicans podcast at gmail.com. And I'd be more than happy to answer it, and Michael might be able to help me answer it as well. So one thing, though, guys, please remember is when you go to these countries, you will most likely need a fishing license.
Yes.
So when we went to
be aware of the rules and regulations on top of that.
100%, because let me tell you, 2 of the countries that I've been to, USA being one and New Zealand, they are very strict. Very strict. When we got to America, the first thing I mentioned just before we went to was the Bass Pro Store. And we said to the gentleman behind the counter, "Hey, man, do we need a fishing license?" He's like, "Well, not really." I'm like, "So what happens if we don't have one?" And he goes, "Well, you just go to jail." I'm like, "Go to jail?" He's like, "It's all right, man. You just get bailed out." I'm like, No. So we got a fishing license for something like $50 for it. Now, they weigh you on the scale.
Oh.
They measure your height.
Yeah,
they enter all this into the computer database. And
you could be anyone.
You could, and you get an A4 piece of paper matching your description. It must be on your persons at all time.
Yeah, okay.
Now, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but we were fishing one of these dodgy lakes, and the old police lady bailed me up, and I didn't have my license, and I was shitting bricks. But in New Zealand, man, like, if I won't go into it because it's very detailed, and if you ever are heading over there, drop us a message, and I can try and help you get your head around it. But you need different licenses for different rivers.
Yeah.
As an international guest, you can only fish a certain amount of rivers in your LGA, so your local government area. So, say like the Richmond Valley, Clarence Valley. You can only fish in that area for 5 days a year as an international guest. So if you're there for 2 weeks and you have the best river from hell and the trout are jumping out of the water, you can only fish it for 5 days.
Wow.
If you pre-book a license, which you have to do to get into that river, and it's raining and it's shit and it's cloudy and there's no visibility, too bad, so sad, you've got to go.
Yeah, right.
It is very full on, and it gets pretty expensive. Your yearly season license over there, I think they've just changed. It's like just on $300 now. And then if you fish a backcountry stream, she's $48 a day.
Wow. On
top of that, and if you enter the backcountry in the airport, you pay a $38 backcountry levy fee.
Well, were we whinging about how much New South Wales rec fishing licenses were recently? And you're telling me this?
Yeah, mate, it's full on. It's full on. But unlike New South Wales, I can 100% accept where they put it straight back into like every 10 kilometres is an angler access. Beautiful parkways. But New Zealand's full on, man.
Yeah,
it's very, very full on. And it was confusing for us trying to plan. Like we had a house, like a base. And we'd spend like 2 days in this LGA, 2 days
Is this just for trout fishing, or is it for everything over there?
Well, trout fishing, if you want to catch salmon, you've got to have a whole nother license.
Yeah, because I mean, one thing that I've always wanted to do over there and is to go get snapper and kingies in 4 foot of water.
And I don't even know how that licensing works.
Yeah, right.
I'm just totally referring to trout.
Yeah, okay.
And then we drove 4.5 hours to fish another area because our area was shot and it was unreal. But then if you wanted to stay there, you can only stay there for 5 days. So it's very, very detailed. But like I've mentioned, I'll probably finish that there. But please let me know if you've got any questions. I'd be happy to answer them. I'm no guru at it, but I've done a little bit of it now, and I absolutely love it.
I think we'll put a poll up. We'll just pick maybe the top 6 areas that you'd probably like to fish overseas, and just see what some of the viewers say. It'd be interesting to see if you've been there or not, perhaps.
100%. Yeah, we might just pick out 6 of what we think are the best and see who rates it as well as us. So, very good, mate. I think that was really cool. It's just good to talk about that stuff, you experience it, but it's nice to share it around. And
Yep.
Share it with the viewers as well. But, mate, have we got any mud gudgeons? Do you want to hit us with a mud gudgeon?
Now, I don't know what this is or what this has come to, and I get it to a certain degree because they want to make people fit. But as I mentioned at the start of the show, I went to a caravan park. Now, the thing is, they're asking what your size is, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
But look, at the end of the day, they're asking what size you are, and look, I always just sort of say a couple of meters more, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Anyhow, I said, we're all up, we're 8 meters. Anyhow, so we've gone into this site, and really the setup's 6. And long story short, we were crammed.
Yeah,
now,
right.
Didn't worry me because I was just there for the day, and what I sort of just seen was all across the other side of where we were camping on our little site was just vacant.
Yeah.
Absolutely vacant.
They've just squished everyone in.
Yeah, and that was the other thing. They just pushed everyone into this one little corner. So Fred and I can hear someone snoring at night, where there was about 80 meters of just vacant site over the other side, and they were definitely bigger sites.
Yeah.
And but this is starting to happen a little bit too often for my liking. And
look, that's the second time now that's happened to you guys.
Yeah. And look, I get it in peak season. So the first time that I discussed this, it was in a school holiday period. But this time around, no, nothing's doing right. So if tourist park operators listen to us,
shout out, we want some free accommodation.
No, we just, when it's not busy, just spread us out a bit.
Sounds simple as
I don't think you're going to get 20 caravans in the space of 20 hours.
Don't be mud gudgeons. Mate, I've already mentioned my mud gudgeon of the night, and it would be the lovely precipitation falling from the sky. We have had more than enough of it. We are sick of it. It's hard to knock back the rain, but it is just a bog hole out there.
It's terrible.
The northern region of New South Wales is renowned for its humidity, its rain, and man, it is just bucketing down. And it's still raining right here now as we speak. And I honestly do hope it backs off because it is setting up for a flood, and that is not what we want to see here at this time of year. But mate, before we finish things up, I've got another little something here.
A bit of a motivational moment.
Bit of a motivational. This is from the TNT Tattle Co. over on Instagram. I'm going to hit this.
Leave anything for later because later the coffee gets cold. Later you lose interest. Later the day turns into night. Later people grow. Later people grow old. Later life goes by. Later you regret not doing something and you had a chance. So stop waiting for the perfect moment that may never come. Do it today and do it now because life is happening right now. And remember, time slips away when you least expect it.
I think that's an absolute beauty there, to be honest, mate. And it's perfect off the back of tonight's episode. If you are thinking about doing that trip and money's holding you back, do not let money hold you back. And that's my biggest tip. If money's in the road or something, change what you're doing, make it so money's not a problem, and just go and do it because you and I both know, mate, we're not overly old, and we've both experienced in the last few years, people too young to be passing on or
100%,
passed on,
yeah,
and you don't want to go and regret not going on that trip to Japan or not going and drilling that ice hole and catching a salmon.
yeah.
You know, just go and do it. And I think the perfect thing in that sums that up is tomorrow the coffee gets cold. Like
That's
that
right,
just
that's
sums
right.
that up.
I guess one thing I'd just say about that is when he says do it today, okay, yes, you can do that with some things, but I think the biggest thing is in our day-to-day life is set some fucking goals.
Yeah.
Set some goals for yourself. Like if you're going overseas, start setting the goals up now so you're jumping through them hoops when you need to.
And that's perfect, mate. You said that. I remember listening to the Dave Mercer podcast, and he had Brendan Polinick on there.
Oh, yeah.
And
Champion.
Brendan, yeah, 100%. He's very good with motivation. And I never forget Brendan saying, he's like, everyone's like, they want to better themselves. You know, like, I want to be better. All I need to be is be better tomorrow than I was today. And he's like, if you want to be 100% better the next day, he's like, that's unrealistic.
Yeah.
He's like, set little goals. Like, if it's 0.01% better than I was yesterday, I've got something to build on. So,
That's right.
Mate, that's been a fantastic episode yet again. Thank you to each and every person that have been tuning in and listening to us. Yet again, sorry for those that were over on our Patreon.
Yep.
But I'm very happy now with with what we've got set. We're really going to pump more into this. The sound. What help me out? Not visual. Non-visuals.
Look, it gives us time to probably work on, I guess, other aspects of this podcast. So.
And a big part of that's going to be our social media moving forward.
Social media moving forward, getting some more guests on, and then creating new opportunities and avenues as we go through this journey with you guys. So just bear with us. We are coming up to Christmas. We're probably going to have a week or so off somewhere in there, I'd say.
But don't fail. We're going to still pepper your ears. Old P2 is going to put together the best of. And because we were almost at halfway to our 50th episode, mate. We're almost there. This has been half a year. This has been going along now. So we're going to. Who would have thought we'd still be here? We're going to crack out a best of episode for over the Christmas break. But guys, we're going to catch you next Thursday. We're going to come back. We're going to pepper your ears. We might even have a special guest. I'm Joey.
I'm Mick, and we are the Two Pelicans.
Woo! Catch us next week.